setup, I use a glass bowl as my palette. I find that this works pretty great for mixing colors and to use a palette knife. There is a gray paper underneath my palette that I use to make better judgments when mixing paint. It allows my eyes to properly see the color I'm mixing compared to a neutral color. This is better than using my usual white surface, since white may persuade me to make lighter colors because everything compared to it is darker. I am going to be using gouache, however this will work across all paints because it is color theory. I'm going to be using these 3 primary colors by Winsor Newton, however they can get a bit pricey, so I do recommend Arteza for a more affordable option. I am laying down the primary colors in my palette, red, yellow, and blue, and I'm going to be mixing equal amounts of them to obtain secondary colors, orange, red, and green. By equal amounts, I don't necessarily mean equal amounts, which is kind of counterintuitive. I've learned that some pigments are just more naturally overpowering than others. Case in point, my red pigment is more overpowering than my yellow pigment, so I need less of my red than my yellow. The more you mix paint, the more you will understand situations like this, and that's exactly why I highly recommend for you to try this out yourself. I did the same thing with the green and then purple. If your purple appears darker than mine, know that it's completely normal and expected. When mixing darker colors, it's important to add a little bit of white to make sure that the color you're mixing is true to what you want. This is also true for a lot of purples. Another tip I have is to buy a big container of white paint because this you will probably go through the fastest. That looks about right, so I'm going to be moving on to make tertiary colors. Tertiary colors are the colors that are in between the colors I mixed. For example, red, orange, yellow, green. Now I'm officially done with making all the hues/colors of the color wheel we're making today. Chances are the color you want to make isn't within this wheel, so I'm going to show you how to manipulate the value of a color. In simple terms, this is how light or how dark a particular color is. Your first instinct may be to darken or desaturate a color using black. However, there's a more cooler and academic way to do this that will prevent your colors from looking muddy. For example, red. If I want to desaturate red and make it less vibrant, I would add the complementary color. In this case, it's green. So I continue by adding a little bit of green into my red. I can adjust it as necessary if I want it more or less. And as you can see, this will darken my red and make it more muted. I am now going to neutralize the green by adding a little bit of red. If you're ever unsure about what color is complementary to another, just search up the color wheel on Google, and whatever color is across from another on the wheel, it's its complement. I'm also going to be making a neutralized orange by adding a little bit of violet. These are a bit messy, but I recommend you playing around with complementary colors and experimenting with the different hues and values. As you probably already know, to lighten up colors, you want to add a bit of white. I'm going to be using blue as an example here. Now I'm also going to be doing this with a warmer color, like orange. A lot of people believe that white has a cooler undertone, so to minimize the effects of it transforming the orange into a more cooler color, I'm going to be adding a little bit of yellow, so that way it retains more of its warmth. You might also be wondering how to make a true gray or black. So in order to do this, you're going to want to mix the primary colors in even amounts. And this can take a lot of trial and error. When you think you have a match close enough, try mixing a little bit of white to see what the color truly is. The first time I did it, mine was a little bit more purple than I would like, so I combated that issue by adding a bit of yellow. When it became too yellow, I played around with the primary colors again, and then I found something that I thought was pretty close. This portion of the video now covers skin tones. So skin tones are actually very complex, and I'm just going to get into the basics in this video and probably make another one just about this. So skin tones have a lot of different types of colors within them. Right now I'm mixing red and yellow, and I'm later going to add a little bit of blue to give it more of a balanced look. A lot of people have heard of warm, cool, and even neutral skin tones, but this doesn't even come close to cover the complexity within them. Some cool skin tones might have a little bit more purple than others, or a little bit more blue. And same thing with warm skin tones. Some might have a bit more yellow, while some range a bit more peachy and red. So there's so many complexities within skin tones. Even on the same person, let's say I have a yellowish skin tone, there's some parts of my face which have a more reddish tint or greenish tint. So when mixing skin tones, it's important to know the context, the lighting, and the basic colors that you want to use. With that being said, I am going to make a cooler and warmer skin tone to provide as an example. I basically just played around with the primary colors and mixed more yellow tones on top and more blue tones on the bottom. You can also, of course, mix colors other than the primary ones, like for example, I'm mixing a little orange in this and a little purple in this skin tone. That concludes the video. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a professional, this is just how I paint. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!